The white man's burden. It's a pretty heavy burden, isn't it? After all, there is a world to govern, the uncut people to civilize, the brown men and black people in particular, an entire continent or continents like the dark continent to civilize and to rule a country, rule an empire where the sun never sets. The white man's burden. It's a heavy burden, it's a heavy load, isn't it? Frail shoulders cannot just shoulder that responsibility, or can they? There are continents after continents after continents to govern an empire where the sun never sets. Millions of uncut, uncivilized brutes, if you will, to civilize. Who can do that except the white man? Well, these are the thoughts that came to my mind when I read that Suella Braverman, the United Kingdom's Home Secretary, had resigned all of a sudden. This development was in the making for quite some time. Braverman was not satisfied. She was not satisfied with the Metropolitan Police London's decision to allow protests with pro-Palestinian undertones in the very heart of London. That was not only the bone of contention. The protests came, they are a part of protests against the Israeli action, against what they call, uh, while the Israelis, while the Israeli government says that their action is against the Hamas, the world takes it. An increasing number of countries around the world take the Israeli action as action against the Palestinians. Those protests in London were also part of that global protest against the Israeli action that has killed more than 11,000 people in Gaza Strip, including women, children, and senior citizens. Of course, the Israeli action came after the Hamas launched an attack, uh, killing scores of people and taking hundreds of hostages. That grim reminder that 10 Nepali students also died. They were also killed in that gruesome attack on the Gaza Strip. They were students studying in Israeli institutions, uh, some agricultural program, some government, Israeli government funded uh, agricultural program. 10 people, 10 Nepali young students died in that attack, in that dastardly attack. But the Israeli action has killed. The subsequent Israeli action on the Gaza Strip has killed more than 11,000 people thus far and rendered like a large number of people injured. It's an unfolding humanitarian disaster, and the United Nations and the most powerful countries of the world has failed to bring peace to the Middle East, that stretch of the Middle East. The Middle East has always been a restive region, so this there are fears that the ongoing Israel-Palestine war may foment a wider conflict in the Mid East. Sunak, I mean, Braverman has written a long letter to the Prime Minister, which is on the background. You can see that very much there. She has criticized her own government. She was a vital part of the Rishi Sunak government, and she has criticized the Sunak government for failing to stop the boat. I'll talk about that. Braverman was referring to the government's failure to stop the inflow of immigrants to the United Kingdom in boatloads from Africa and the Middle East, from Africa and the Middle Eastern countries. Braverman was also for resettling the immigrants, the illegal immigrants that had entered the United Kingdom to Rwanda, an African country. That is that is what you call the Rwanda policy. So she had a number of issues with the Sunak government. By the way, controversy is nothing new for the Home Secretary, the outgoing Home Secretary, Braverman. Do you remember, do you recall the name of Liz Truss? Truss was the predecessor of the incumbent Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Braverman had also resigned during the premiership of Liz Truss as Immigration Secretary. So this thing is, she is like quite outspoken. She is a no-nonsense politician, it appears. She speaks her mind. So she was quite vocal about this time also about the Rishi Sunak government's failure to stop the boat, to stop the inflow of immigrants, and she was opposed to allowing the protests in London, the recent protests in London that had distinct pro-Palestinian undertones to them. She also wrote an article criticizing the London Metropolitan Police's move of allowing the protests to take place. Some interesting developments have taken place after Braverman's resignation. One outstanding development, if you will, is the comeback of David Cameron. Do you remember David Cameron? Many, I think, remember Cameron as the Brexit guy. It was during his time that the United Kingdom left the 28-member grouping, that is the European Union. After that, his resignation as Prime Minister about 7 years ago, Cameron was he had pretty much slipped into oblivion. He was writing memoirs and working for charities, making some money on the sidelines, but he was not in active politics. He has made this sudden comeback into the United Kingdom's politics, active politics, at a time when the international tensions are mounting. It helps when you have a seasoned foreign secretary. A foreign secretary is a foreign minister, is the foreign minister of England. So he will have a crucial role in international politics, I guess. So his appointment bears special significance. As for Braverman, she has been replaced by James Cleverly, another politician who will be discharging his duties as the Home Secretary. Some questions arise in the wake of these developments. Was the British establishment uncomfortable with Braverman and her policies? Braverman has also accused in her long letter to the Prime Minister of failing to keep the promises he had made during the formation of the Sunak cabinet after a disgraceful ouster of his predecessor, Liz Truss. Her point has been that Sunak has failed to deliver the promises made to him, made to her, and more or less the Sunak government, Rishi Sunak, has failed to keep the promises made to the British people. Amid these internal tensions come David Cameron, the Foreign Secretary, and James Cleverly, I'm sorry for that slip of tongue. So what does the return of Cameron to the center stage of British politics mean? Does it mean that there is this growing realization in the United Kingdom that the brown men and women are incapable of governing the erstwhile empire where the sun would never set? Does it mean that the white man's burden has returned to them? They are once again in a position to shoulder the heavy burden of a declining empire? These questions beget some serious answers. As things unfold, we will just update you about the developments and their meaning to the United Kingdom and the whole world. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.